intentionally connecting. It doesn't have to be a thing. You don't have to pre-plan it. You just need to seize it, because there are so many potential moments out there that you can take advantage of as soon as you open your eyes to them. It's not about waiting until you have more time or more energy or fewer responsibilities, or when the kids are more independent or when they move out. It's about learning how to show up in the moments in your everyday life. Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how much parenthood could change a marriage. If flirting, laughing, and having fun together feels like a thing of the past, then I'm here to teach you that marriage doesn't have to feel so hard with your parents, and your marriage can thrive even when you're in the season of raising kids. Whether you're in a good place in your marriage and you just want to continue growing together, or you're wondering if you even like your spouse anymore, this podcast has something for you. Join me here each week as we dive into what it takes to help your marriage grow, and maybe even do a 180. You'll learn ways to handle conflict better, bring that spark back into your relationship, as well as learn how to improve other areas of your life from my lovely guest experts. Are you ready for the next stage of your life and marriage? Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about those times where you feel like you're just not connected with your spouse, right? You are in between date nights and you just feel like, gosh, you really need that date to feel connected again. Maybe you guys aren't quite on the same page anymore. Maybe things just feel a little bit more challenging. You feel like you're just not running life smoothly together at the moment because you guys are out of sync. You guys haven't gone on a date in a while. You guys haven't had quality time in a while. And so you're desperately trying to get back to that date, trying to arrange the childcare, trying to figure out how are we going to do this? When are we going to do this? Because we've got so much going on, but only to have that date happen. And on the date, you're kind of like, I don't know what to do right now. I feel a little awkward. Or you have a date, you have a great time, and then life carries on and you're back to where you started, where you're like, gosh, that didn't last very long. It seems like we're disconnected again. What's going on? So if that's the case, you are not doing anything wrong, okay? If anything, there's probably a little too much pressure being put on these, what I call macro moments, these bigger moments of like, okay, we've got this date and we have this one chance, these couple hours to put us back together again, to feel like we are strong partners in life, in marriage, and in parenting. And we just need this to go well so that the rest of our lives can go well and we could really feel like a solid team, right? If anything, it's that there's too much pressure being put on it. And what really needs to happen is more things need to happen in the in-between moments. Not so much, okay, here's our date, here's our chance, but rather let's build that bridge between these macro moments of connections. So it's not that you're doing anything wrong, more so it's about what else you could be doing. And I know that could sound hard because you're like, gosh, I'm doing so much as it is. I promise you, it is not going to be something that takes a ton of energy or even time to do. It's just changing your perspective on how you guys do life currently. So don't feel like you need to add anything to how you're doing things. It's just the intention behind what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, and really maximizing those in-between moments, okay? So before we start, I just want to put it out there that it does not require you to have hours and hours and hours of time together carved out on a regular basis for you to feel connected, okay? I'm a marriage coach. My husband and I are very connected. We work well as a team. We are working well in our marriage. We are working well as parents, and we just moved across the country away from our whole support system, and we do not have reliable childcare. We don't even go on dates on a monthly basis, and yet we're still connected. So if that's possible, then it is possible for you as well. And so I want you to pay attention, take notes if you need, and really listen to this episode with an open mind, with curiosity, like, how does that apply to our marriage? So that you can be inspired to take action, because your marriage shouldn't have to rely on these macro connections, these dates, or even going on solo vacations with your husband or partner to feel connected. Because if we peel back the layers, then you can see that that's not always going to be sustainable, right? Life is going to happen. You're probably not going to have time to go on that many dates unless you have a solid support system behind you, right? If you've got people that are willing to take care of your kids and you trust them, then yeah, go on those dates, take that quality time together to connect on a regular basis. But if you're like my husband and I, and you don't have that, and it's not feasible for you to go on a weekly date to connect, then this is even more important for you to listen to. Okay. So, like I mentioned to you, you're not going to need hours. Okay. I'm talking little tiny windows of your day, 5 minutes here, maybe even 30 seconds there. You and your partner can show that you care about each other, you see each other, you like each other, and that you're here for each other in those tiny moments that I call micro connections. Okay. So let's dig in. What are micro connections? This is a term that I made up years ago because our lives are made up of small moments. It's not just my life is on pause, my marriage is on pause when we're not on a date. That sucks, because like if you compare the amount of time you spend with your spouse just doing life compared to how much time you are on dates, it's very different, right? You have way more time doing life together, and it doesn't help our marriage grow if our marriage is constantly on pause all the time, right? Like you've heard the phrase put on the back burner. Well, lots of marriages get put on the back burner after kids come into the picture. And through this episode, I want to teach you that there are ways that you can bring your marriage back front and center without feeling like you have to just put your kids on pause or other things in life on pause, but rather you can weave in these intentional moments to stay connected with your spouse. And you could do it in a way that is feasible for your everyday person in your everyday kind of life. Okay. So micro connections are just those small, tiny moments, those opportunities that we take advantage of as we're living life, right? It could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be mental. So examples would be like making eye contact during dinner, a light touch on their back as you're walking by, going in for a hug, kissing good morning or good night, or when you leave each other to do something, intentionally greeting each other, or sharing a laugh or texting a funny reel that reminds you of them to let them know that you thought of them, or picking something up at the grocery store that they would enjoy and sharing with them, right? I want you to think about this as romanticizing your life. Okay. So I don't know if you've heard of that before, but on a personal level, when you romanticize your life, that's when you intentionally make things a big deal in a positive light. So, for example, when something good happens to you, like someone paid it forward to you, you're in the Starbucks line or wherever you like to go, and the person ahead of you pays for you. You're like, wow, that is amazing. You have choices in that moment, right? You can be like, cool, move on with life, enjoy your coffee or tea. I'm a tea latte girl myself, and then move on with life. Or you can kind of relish and marinate in that feeling of like, wow, this day is amazing. I feel so grateful. I'm going to share it with my husband, or I'm going to share it with a friend. Like, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what just happened. I just got a free drink. How amazing. And kind of let it carry over, right? So you can make a big deal out of it and let it brighten up your whole day, and let the positive effects of that moment impact the rest of your day and your outlook on life, right? Or you could just be like, okay, cool, and then let that moment end. So in a marriage context, you can romanticize your life by, oh, I picked up his favorite snack at the grocery store. And you could either A, put it in the pantry and be like, he'll find it when he finds it, or he can be like, hey, look what I got you, and kind of bring attention to it. And then that creates an opportunity for him to be like, wow, I feel so special. I feel cared about. I feel thought of. I feel remembered. And then, he'll say thank you in whatever way he wants, right? Thank you verbally, physically, and it'll simmer in his mind because it was made a big deal out of, right? So I want you to think about romanticizing your marriage in that way, right? How can you essentially turn your life, your married life, into a romance movie or novel if you're not into TV and you are more of a book girly, right? And this extends out to even things that he's doing for you. You can make a big deal out of that too. Instead of feeling grateful internally, you can externally express your gratitude and be like, wow, that felt really special. I really appreciate that you did that for me. I love you so much. Something like that. Okay. The point is that none of these things that I'm mentioning are qualified as grand gestures, but they do build on each other. They're small but mighty ways that you can signal and communicate and express that you matter to each other. And it has nothing to do with going on a date. And why this matters more than date nights is because real life is happening right now, right? As you're listening to this episode, as you are picking up your kids to go somewhere, as you are washing dishes or making dinner or doing laundry, right? You are knee deep in it. You're raising kids. Maybe you're also working. You're managing a household. You're also trying to have the healthiest marriage possible while raising kids that are kind human beings. It's not necessarily feasible for you to have the time for a candlelit dinner, to go on a romantic date. But you know what you do have is these everyday moments, right? And so the point of this is to make those everyday moments count as much as possible, okay? Because when you think about going on a date, there's often this pressure to have a good time, to make the most out of it, right? So it's almost performative sometimes, where it's like, okay, we have to have great conversation. We have to laugh. We have to do these things. Otherwise, it's not worth it. But we need to take this opportunity to reignite our connection and passion and chemistry. But the thing is that it's not happening frequently enough to maintain that strong connection throughout your day-to-day life because it's so inconsistent, right? And without the foundation of micro connections, these dates can feel performative. They can feel like you're not getting the full benefit out of it because you're not feeling connected in between these dates. So they can kind of feel hollow or like you're doing it because you should, right? I've even heard people say that they go on dates because they feel like they should, and it kind of feels like a chore. Instead of it being something exciting to go on, you're like, oh my gosh, finally get a night out without the kids so we can focus on each other one-on-one, right? If you want that level of excitement to go on a date, you're gonna need things to carry you through between these dates. But if you're not doing anything between these dates to maintain your connection, then of course going on a date isn't going to help. It's kind of like where some couples think that all they need to do is go away together on a weekend getaway or go away together on a week-long vacation without the kids so they can focus on their marriage. And then they come back from the vacation wondering, why didn't that fix anything? It's because just like on reality TV shows, those like dating shows, how everything is all like peachy keen, we're so in love. But then when real life hits, they're like, oh, this isn't going to work out because vacations are not real life. Like you are stress-free, your responsibilities are much less, and your environment is not the same as your everyday life. And so what I want to help you do is feel enamored by your everyday life. Feel like you don't have to have that escape to feel connected, but rather learn how to feel connected in your current life, right? How can we make our current lifestyle work for us so that we don't feel like we do need to get away? But if we get the chance, we are excited and there's no pressure. So I want you to think of micro connections as the glue that keeps you two together between the bigger moments, the macro connections. And when you have these micro connections going on a daily basis, that's when you're going to feel the things that you want in your marriage, right? Feeling like the spark is very much alive, feeling like you guys are a solid parenting team, that you guys can make decisions together as a team, feel supported by each other, like, hey, I'm here with you, and feel connected in all ways, right? Physically, mentally, emotionally. You feel like you basically have like a friend, a lover, and a partner all in one. That becomes possible when you are intentional about making use of these micro connections instead of just waiting until you feel like going on a date or waiting until you guys can logistically make a date happen. So if I were to put this almost like a day in the life kind of example, this is how it can look. You can start and end your day with connection, with a hug, eye contact, asking how their sleep was, like anything to show that you genuinely care about their well-being or genuinely care to connect with them, that you're reaching out for them. And then being cognizant of when you go on autopilot and then shifting that to being intentional, right? Our lives are pretty routine when we become parents, right? We do the same thing day in, day out. We wake up, we eat, we take the kids to school, we work, we pick them up, we take them to their extracurriculars, we come back, we cook dinner, we have dinner, we get them ready for bed, and then we go to bed. It can be pretty mundane, right? And if we choose to continue our lives like this together, then yeah, you're going to get disconnected. And so that's why it's all about being intentional. So maybe you spend less time on your phone, or maybe when you're on your phone and they walk into the room, you look up at them to acknowledge them. You say hi. Or when they're talking to you, you intentionally put down your phone and you make eye contact and you show that you actually care about what they have to say by acknowledging what they're saying or asking questions to show interest in what they're saying to you. Another way is asking about their day. Ask how their workday was. Ask how a project is. Ask about something that they're fascinated about lately. Not as a way to just say, okay, I did this, we should feel connected, but to feel like you're continuing to learn about your partner's inner world, right? We see what's going on the outside, but as a person yourself, you know how much is going on the inside. We know we have a lot of feelings. You know we have a lot of opinions. You know when things don't rub us the right way and we have a tough exterior and we don't necessarily show it. And so even if you've been with your partner for what seems like forever, right? I've got friends who've been dating their spouses since they were in high school, and that is like incredible. But even then, even if you've dated these people forever, that doesn't mean that you know every single thing about them. So maintaining that level of curiosity and intrigue of like, I wonder what they think about this, or I wonder what they want to do, or I wonder how they would answer this or approach this, right? One of my favorite couples that I've ever worked with, they have been together since they were 15, I believe. Okay. And it's wild because we're the same age. And every time they celebrate an anniversary, I'm like, how is that number so big? I don't understand. Right. But that's because they've been together for a long time and they got married before I did. And when we worked together, you would think on paper, they know everything about each other. But no, they didn't. They knew each other's habits. They knew everything that they could see on the exterior. But internally, there was a lot that they learned about each other throughout our time working together. And now they know to approach everything with curiosity, and they're still continuing to learn more about each other. They're still continuing to fall deeper in love with each other. And after working together, they said that they feel smitten about each other again. Like, how many couples do you know that have been together for 25 years that can say that they're smitten over their partner? That's a rare thing, right? That's the goal in my mind. That is rare. Most times when people get married, they have kids, that excitement kind of dies down because they settle into life and they've got distractions, right? Kids are distracting, work is distracting, our relationships outside of our marriage are distracting, right? Like our friends, our family members, etc. And we kind of just become complacent. And that's how you fall into feeling like a roommate. But just because you guys have been together for a long time, or just because you've gotten to that place where you feel like a roommate, it doesn't mean that you can't go back to feeling excited again. Okay. I know my husband and I have definitely had our seasons that we've gone through, but we're excited to be with each other. We both work from home and we still very much like each other. We still flirt. We still know how to have a good time with each other. We're still making efforts to connect physically, emotionally, and mentally. And so if I can do it, so can you, because this is not something that I witnessed growing up. This is totally something that I learned and have built with my husband. And so this is also possible for you. Okay. So I want you to start thinking of these moments as not just like another thing to check off, but rather a consistent practice, right? Like if you're a yogi, you know that yoga is not something that you can ever master, right? It is a practice. And I want you to think about your marriage and the connection as a practice. The more you do it, the more consistent you are with it, the stronger you become with it. Your foundation gets stronger. It's harder to break, right? And so, how can you start to incorporate moments of affection in your life together? How can you create more moments of micro connection in your marriage between your dates? From touching their arm to rubbing their back to having a conversation to having your legs touch when you watch TV or holding hands in the car. Or what I love to do is when we go walking as a family, we'll let the kids walk ahead while we kind of drag behind, holding hands, pretending like our kids aren't there, and have conversations that would be utterly difficult to have when they're around, right? Even perusing down the aisles of Target or Costco or Kroger, which is weird to say because for all my life it was Safeway, but Kroger is now my grocery store, right? But even perusing down the aisles of grocery stores or stores in general and intentionally connecting. It doesn't have to be a thing. You don't have to pre-plan it. You just need to seize it. You just need to take advantage of these moments because there are so many potential moments out there that you can take advantage of as soon as you open your eyes to them. Okay. So all that to say, it's not about waiting until you have more time or more energy or fewer responsibilities or when the kids are more independent or when they move out. It's about learning how to show up in the moments in your everyday life. Okay. So pick a moment today to be intentional. Pause, notice your partner, create an opportunity to connect, and offer a small act of connection. If you've been feeling like you are two ships passing in the night and you don't know how to get back to each other, I can help. This is the kind of work I do with couples all the time. I help you get back to feeling like a married couple again, feeling like you like each other again, building that emotional connection, but in a sustainable way that works for your life. Okay? If you're needing support, reach out to me. We can take your marriage from barely surviving to having a strong connection, feeling like you two are thriving. If you feel like that is the next step for you to getting back to feeling connected again, book a clarity call with me. Let's talk. I would love to share how I can help you. And that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you take action on it. And if you know someone that could benefit from listening to this episode, please share this with them. Better yet, share this in your Instagram stories and tag me so I can give you a shout out. And if you love the show, please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen. That's what helps the show grow. And that would just light up my day. All right. Until the next episode, I'll see you later. That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please send me a message over on Instagram at Michelle Perta Coaching to let me know what you loved most about it. Hearing from my listeners is my absolute favorite. And if you've been loving this podcast, please leave a rating and review. This will help people like you find the show and get the help they need. Catch you here on the next episode. Bye.